Good afternoon, and Ted, if you're available next week, we've got an AD's meeting in Washington, and I'd really like for you to come along and help us clear up some expansion issues also. So, in 2005, the Greater Wilmington Sports Hall of Fame was originated and created by legendary football coach Bill Dooley, who now is a resident of Wrightsville Beach. The purpose of that organization is to honor those persons who, by their excellence in the world of sports, have brought recognition and esteem to themselves in the greater Wilmington area. We honored our first class of inductees in 2006 and have continued the tradition of honoring 4 or 5 individuals each year at our annual banquet, always held the first Sunday in May. At this time, I'd like to take a quick moment and ask those members of the Board of Directors of the Greater Wilmington Sports Hall of Fame who are here today to please stand and be recognized for their work. Today we are pleased to launch the new Greater Wilmington Sports Club, which is being created as an outreach program of the Greater Wilmington Sports Hall of Fame. The Sports Club will bring together sports enthusiasts for a monthly lunch meeting to gather with other sports fans, to hear from prominent local and regional sports celebrities, to gain insight on individuals, teams, and trends in the games that we all love so dearly. Members and sponsors of the Greater Wilmington Sports Club will be supporting young people participating in local sports through the Greater Wilmington Sports Hall of Fame Scholarship Program. Again, this is one of Bill Dooley's dreams and visions, was to make sure that all these efforts yielded some benefits for young people in the community. You can visit the Hall of Fame website to see past inductees and certainly the past scholarship recipients also. Each attendee today has a membership application inside your sports club program, and also a sports club membership desk is set up outside the ballroom where you can get more information, and there'll be other board members standing around that table this afternoon at the conclusion of the meeting. In honor of today's launching of the sports club with special guest Coach Roy Williams, you can join at discounted inaugural rates for memberships and year-long sponsorships this week only also. In a correction to the program that is on your table, the next sports club luncheon will be Friday, November 2nd, and UNCW's head basketball coaches Buzz Peterson and women's coach Adele Harris will be speaking at noon again on November the 2nd at the Wilmington Hilton. And then the next meeting will be held on Friday, December 7th, and the 4 boys basketball coaches from New Hanover County High Schools will be there speaking about their programs that day. I want to thank Rob Kaiser and the Greater Business Journal, the Greater Wilmington Business Journal, for your partnership and for bringing and for also serving as our media sponsor. One last bit of housekeeping that I'd like to take a quick moment. I'd like to recognize Chancellor Gary Miller, the Chancellor at UNCW, First Lady Georgia Miller. There's not a bigger sports fan than Chancellor Miller. He believes in college athletics, the inherent good, and what they do not only for the university, but certainly what they do and will do for the greater Wilmington area. Chancellor Miller. Coach Bunny.
Afternoon, everybody. Coach Williams, we're so happy to get the great news about your health, and we're also really happy that we didn't have to go with the replacement speakers. You know, that group down there, including me, we know how the replacement referees fared. Coach Williams and I are actually from the same class. That is the class of 1972 in Chapel Hill. He didn't always see me in class because I wasn't there sometimes. You know, I was getting ready for Coach Dooley's practice that afternoon. And I don't have to tell you how successful he has been. I mean, he's the winningest coach active right now out there in NCAA Division I, and one of the greatest coaches of all time. But you might not know how he does it. In our 5 years together in Chapel Hill when I was the head football coach, He brought a spirit of teamwork, discipline, and leadership to our campus. And it was only natural that all of us follow along as he supported all the other sports programs in Chapel Hill. An example of that was when my wife Dawn and I traveled to Omaha, Nebraska to meet with him and Wanda out there as the NCAA World Championship Baseball was being played. And I will never, ever forget Coach Roy hanging out of the press box when Connor Barth kicked the field goal and as time expired to beat the University of Miami. Whenever I was up on campus or around town and I ran into Roy's players, they are always very respectful and gracious. And whenever I asked Roy or his staff to help us with recruiting, they always responded. They were always 100% behind our football program. On a very, very personal note, not many people know about this. The day that we got fired with just a little bit of the season gone by, there's actually 5 games left. That evening, after I had met with the team to tell them that we'd been let go, about 10 o'clock at night, there was a knock on my door at my house. It was Roy Williams, there to support. The next day when we had the formal press conference to announce that we were being let go and I would continue to coach the team, Roy Williams was front and center at the press conference once again to show his support for me and my wife Dawn. I will never forget those things. He's a special human being. And in a season of politics, Roy is Roy. He is a first-class human being. He's got great character. He brings a spirit. Roy is real. And we are so lucky to have him here with us today. Put your hands together.
Thank you. Thank you. I just told John about a month or so I would have sprinted up those things, but people have been messing with my body the last 3 or 4 weeks. It looks like a great crowd out there. I can't see very many people in the back because of those lights, but hope that I don't put you to sleep today. And somebody said, well, why are you doing this? Well, first of all, I love North Carolinians. I love great North Carolinians, and John Bunning asked me to, and that's the reason that I'm here. And in fact, I told John, I said that we have a place over at Wrightsville Beach, and some of you know, and I love that place, but we came in Saturday night after the football game. It was a great victory Saturday afternoon in Kenan Stadium, and my staff came down, so we came down Saturday night, and we've been having a little retreat. The coaches, we talked about 3 hours yesterday morning, about 3 hours in the afternoon. Went and had a great dinner last night, and then went back and talked, and we met some this morning. I left the guys and told them to go do their workouts and whatever they wanted to do, and I'd be back and we'd talk some more tonight. And some of you may know Rusty Carter, who lives across the street from us there at Wrightsville Beach, and we're going to be on his porch tonight with some stone crabs and shrimp, and I don't want one of you suckers to show up, okay? If you're invited, come, and I'm not inviting anybody because it's we've done it the last 4 years in a row, the Monday night before practice starts the next weekend, and Rusty just does a great job for us. But it is, you know, when you're starting sports clubs, and John and I were talking, that you do feel the need to speak at some of those things. I pick 1 or 2 every year, but I did. I came down here because I really enjoy the heck out of Wilmington. I really, really love the place that we have over on Wrightsville Beach. We're just a couple of doors down from Jimmy Moore. We haven't ruined the neighborhood too badly, I don't think, yet. And but it is a nice place. And then, as I said, John asked me to do it, and I really think that John Bunning has the love for the University of North Carolina just like Roy Williams, and that's something that I really always appreciate. And, you know, it's strange because one time Mike Roberts was the baseball coach at North Carolina, and he was a 1972 graduate also. And Anson Dorrance and John Swafford were there in that same time period, 71, 72, and 73. So I don't know. The only thing that bothers me is I knew who Mike Roberts was, and I knew who John Bunning was, and I knew who John Swafford was, and I knew who Anson Dorrance was. Not one daggone one of those guys knew who the crap I was. But we had some fun, and I was in some class with some of those guys, John Anderson and some of those guys that played football for us that I just enjoy. And there's nothing more fun to me than game day at Kenan Stadium. I love the pageantry of college football. Last night I watched probably 3 or 4 plays just to see if Drew Brees broke the record of tying John Unitas for most consecutive games with a touchdown pass, but I don't really get excited about NFL football like I do about college football. I love those things where you have kids overcoming adversity every day and in difficult situations, and I love what John Bunning did for us. And I really feel, and John and I talked for a couple of seconds, Larry Fedora, I think he's the real deal, and I think he's going to really do a great job. And we've had some adversity to overcome, and I think that he's going to be able to do it. But to me, when you coach at the University of North Carolina, you're part of everybody's program. Thursday night, a couple of weeks ago, I went in to see Anson Dorrance's soccer team play. And I try to go to as many things as I possibly can because we're all in this thing together. But I do enjoy supporting our football team, and I'm one of those guys, some of you play golf, and as the saying goes that you can't birdie them all if you don't birdie the first one. All right, and there's also a saying, the more putts you make, the more you make. Well, I'm one of those guys that believes the more you win, the more you win. And so I love to see us win on Saturday afternoons, win on Thursday night, win on Monday afternoon, win in everything we can. It is something, too. It's fun to be here, look down at Robert Bauer, Buzz Peterson. Don't anybody ever call him Bauer, okay? Because he knows if somebody else Bauer, he knows it's me. If he picks up a phone and somebody says Bauer, because I'm the only person in the world that calls him that. But it was a treat for me to watch Buzz grow up and play at Asheville High with one of my great friends, Rodney Johnson, and come play for us at North Carolina. And Mr. Bass, you've got a guy that's going to do a great job in your basketball program here too. It's fun to look at Buzz and see what he's doing now and talk basketball with him in the summer and ride around and see some of the games when we go recruiting. And it is something that once you play at the University of North Carolina, you're part of the University of North Carolina family. And Coach Smith one time a long time ago told me that one of the players was asked, does Coach Smith allow you to be in a fraternity? And they said, the player said yes. And he said, which one? He said, the North Carolina basketball fraternity, and it's the best one on campus. And I stole that and took it with me to Kansas and brought it back to North Carolina, and that's the way we feel. But it's going to be fun watching Buzz and what he does here. And I look back here and I see Joe Robinson. Joe, my senior year at North Carolina, I love to play things. I mean, it's, the reason I'm a coach is because I always played. And I didn't think I wanted to work for a living, so I decided I wanted to coach. My high school coach, Buddy Baldwin, was extremely important to me, but I used to play everything. I thought I wanted to be the best athlete there was on campus that nobody knew about. And so I played intramurals, everything you can possibly play. And I was the catcher when Joe Robinson was the pitcher on the fast-pitch softball team in intramurals. And Joe looks a heck of a lot older than I am, but that's because he is. It's one of those guys. But we had some good times. But there's some great people in here, and I'm sure I'm going to miss some people that are important to me in our program and what's been going on. But, it is something to me. Again, Wrightsville Beach is a neat place. I mean, I guarantee you I love it. There's only a couple of bad things going on right now. Yeah, I had some surgery, but I was lucky. In 2010, I guess November 24th of 2009, they operated on my shoulder. That's the first time I'd ever been cut on by any way, shape, or form. Now we have athletes. I have one athlete on my team that's already had 3 knee surgeries. I was 60 years old before any surgery of any kind, and they operate on my shoulder. And I like to tell people that I was playing golf, and I tried to hit it over the dog leg. It was 300-yard carry, and I swung too hard, okay? The fact of the matter is I jumped up on the railroad tie at the tee and slipped and fell on the railroad tie, and it hit the back of my shoulder and blew out the labrum. So that's the truth of the matter. But it is something, and the doctor said you had to be out for 6 months. You can try to play golf again after 6 months. 5 months to the day after my surgery, I played at Augusta National and birdied 18 and shot 80 and won all the money. So that was all right. This surgery here was a little bit different, and I think and I'm not trying to be a preacher by any means, but boy, you need to have physicals. You really do. And you need to check, and as you get older, you need to check what's going on too, because that's what we found. We found a spot on both of my kidneys, and they told me that it was 95% sure it was cancerous. And I said, okay. I didn't worry about it because I felt like I could beat the cancer, and everybody thinks that, and that's the way you should act. But I also knew that I was a lucky guy. You know, that Dumb and Dumber movie? I've never watched that movie because my son thinks it's the greatest thing, and I know we don't agree on movies, okay? You give me John Wayne and Clint Eastwood, that's a good movie. You watch Dumb and Dumber, but I thought there was one great line in there I've never forgotten. When the guy asked the girl, and I'll mess up the numbers a little bit, he says, "Is there a 1 in 1,000 chance that you and I could get together?" And she says, "More like 1 in a million." He said, "God almighty, I got a chance." Well, that's the way I felt when he told me that 95%, because there was 5% out there that said I had a chance. And luckily they cut out the tumor on the right kidney, and it was benign, and then they did the biopsy and found out the tumor on the left kidney is benign as well. And so we're going to check it every 6 months and decide if we have to do anything else. So I feel like as lucky as you can possibly be, but you know what? That's okay. Somebody's got to be lucky. I'd just soon be one of those guys, okay? But it is something that's the 24 days from getting the first verdict until the last verdict was something that does change your life. It changes everything about you. And you'll hear people say that, and just as I did. And I said, well, yeah, I know you have no idea. But it's okay. You got to keep moving forward. They operated on Wednesday. They let me go home on Thursday, and Friday I went up to watch our kids do the preseason conditioning program. And almost got a divorce because Wicked Wanda didn't like that part of it, but since she's not here, I'll tell you this way. I have allowed that woman to live with me for 39 years. I told her I was just going to get up and get out of the car and wave at the guys, make sure they knew I was still alive and kicking. But it was 24 days there. It's about as tough as you can possibly imagine. And I'm like everybody else. Your mind just races and the whole bit. But I really have. I've been feeling pretty good. Was not in very much pain. The doctors up there just did a phenomenal job. It's hard to sleep in that recliner for a couple of weeks there, but a lot of people have it so much more difficult than I do. And then Saturday, the football game, I'm feeling great. I got up early and watched our guys run the mile run Saturday morning, and went and visited with 3 prospects and went to the football game, and all of a sudden something hit me like I'd been run over by a truck, and I think I just got a little touch of the flu. And so for the last 48 hours, it's been a little difficult, but last night was the final straw, because I had a great meal at Jerry's. We swing over by Cole's Ice Cream, and I send Joe Holiday in to find out what time they closed, because I'd eaten so much at Jerry's I didn't want to eat any ice cream right then. They said 9 o'clock, so we went to the house and tried to watch a little bit of the Yankees game, a little bit of the football game. At 20 to 9, jump in the car and go back down, they had decided to close early. Now that really pissed me off. All this other stuff that's been going on is not really important, but I was looking forward to some great Cole's ice cream last night, I can tell you that. But you know, what we're doing right now, this is a fun time of the year. We start this weekend. We have Fast Break Against Cancer breakfast on Friday morning, and it's a program that I'm extremely proud of, and we've done this for 7 years, and we've raised almost $1.4 million for the Lineberger Cancer Center on campus, and it's something that, needless to say, I had a great passion for, because I lost my mother to cancer and my father to cancer both. My mother at only 66. And so I'd had a passion for that, but needless to say, it's even more of a passion right now. But we do that on Friday morning. We have a golf tournament in the middle of the day on Friday for one of my best friends. The guy's driveway faces my driveway in Chapel Hill, Ted Seagroves, and some of you guys know Ted. And 2 days after we lost to Kansas in the Elite 8 game last year, 3 days afterwards, he was operated on with pancreatic cancer. And he's been fighting a great battle and is really, really doing well, and has been somebody I've really admired the way that he's handled things. And then Friday night, all of a sudden we get late night with Roy. And I know it's not late as it used to be. In the old days, it was 12 midnight, and that was really late. Now we get started about 7 or 8 o'clock or something like that. But it's a fun time for us to get started, and everybody wants to see the new players and have some kind of idea of what kind of season we're going to have. And it's something that I really enjoy. I think finally, a long time ago when I was coaching at Kansas, we had a kid named Mike Maddox, who's an attorney in Lawrence, Kansas right now, and was really a bright kid, started on the Final Four team for us. And we were having this little party the night before practice started in Allen Fieldhouse, and some of the cheerleaders got up and got him to dance, and he was one of the worst dancers I've ever seen in my life. And so I told him that. And then the next year, we got it a little bit bigger, and late night with Roy, again, that was at 12 o'clock. And my second year there, all of a sudden, we had closed the doors at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and didn't let anybody else in. And at the end of the program, everybody was having a great time, and the cheerleaders, every one of them made a direct line over to me on the bench. And so I had to get out and dance with the cheerleaders. And Maddox is the one that put them up with that. So since then, it's been 23 years, I've gotten up and danced a little bit. I give them about 10 or 15 seconds and then gracefully get off. And now I think I have excuse. I'm going to try to get out of that sucker on Friday night. So, and what's really bad is you guys have children or grandchildren or whatever you own. How the hell does anybody dance to what music we have nowadays anyway? I mean, when it's Snoop Dogg, I can't dance to the boy. I just can't do that. You know, give me some Marvin Gaye or the Temptations, I'm all right. I can handle that. But so hopefully I'll be able to get out of that Friday night, and then we get to start practice on Saturday morning, and it's the favorite time of the year for me. The first 3 or 4 weeks is we have to determine what our team is and see and make sure that our team agrees with what we are. Because then if you can get your team to agree and them being realistic and sincere about it, then we can try to decide what our strengths are and try to play to that, and what our weaknesses are and try to improve those each and every day. Now, I will tell you something. I learned something here when the toolbox is gone now. I had no freaking idea what a sextant was. Okay? I do. And I liked what you said, where you are and how to get where you're going. Can I borrow that on the next 3 weeks? I'd like to find. That's a question as a coach at this time of the year. Where are you and where do you think you're going to be able to go? And that's the fun time of these next 3 weeks, and it's something that I do really enjoy. The players, honestly, they don't enjoy it quite as much as I do, and but that's okay too. That's fine. I want it. We as coaches, Buzz does this, John did it. We all fight because you fight that battle that you won't practice every day to be one thing. And with me, it's very simple. I want to work. I want to just bust their tail. I want every one of them to be like this is the last minute. But yet, we've got to try to make sure it's a little bit of fun, because you can't have you guys dreading to come to practice. And so it is a kind of deal that we do that each and every year, trying to fight that battle. I do mine because I make everything competitive. If we're doing the slightest little drill in the world, it's competitive. We have a winner and a loser. And at the end of that competition, somebody gets on the end line and we run. Now, in the old days, Coach Smith, we used to start at the end line and just run to the center line and back for something. Well, I'd run a little bit more because I want it to be a little bit more. And so our practices are very competitive. But I like that because I think that's what we have to get ready for in the real world, much less in basketball. In every game I've ever coached, every tight game, somebody gives in. At one point in the game, somebody gives in. And that cannot be us. And that's the way that we approach it every single day. It really is. It's not quite as much fun for my players. At the end, I think it is something. One of the things that I've been blown away by the most is the letters and the calls and the emails and things that I've gotten from former players, from former North Carolina players that I didn't even coach, from former Kansas players that I didn't even coach. And another one that's just blown me away is from the fellow coaches around the country. The calls and the messages and the emails that I've gotten from them has just been off the charts. And I think part of it is that we're all in this thing together. And I tell you guys have a team. You know, we talk a law firm, an accounting firm. Everybody's got a team. And what you want to try to do is get that team moving in the same direction. 100 years ago, Coach Smith had this great thought for the day, and it's been on the first practice plan of every team I've ever coached, 25 years as a head coach. It's amazing how much can be accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit. And that's what we're going to try to push these next 3 weeks. I had a player at Kansas one time. I said, son, I love you, but you ain't ever going to shoot the ball. Now, I love you. I don't love you like your mama loves you, but I love you. But if you shoot the ball, I am going to take you out. And then your mama's not going to love you as much. And I'm not going to love you at all then, okay? We were discussing this morning, we have a player right now that I love, but when he shoots the ball, it's going to be a dunk. Because if it's not a dunk, he ain't going to shoot the ball, okay? And that's my team, just like, again, the accounting firm or law firm. You have some people have strengths in certain areas, so that's what they should do. And if they're weak in other areas, they should try to improve that. I'll give you an example. If we are a poor three-point shooting team, then why should we allow the other team to make us shoot three-point shots? Coach Smith had a saying that I loved. He says, we don't want to take what you gave us. I want to take what I want. No disrespect, John, I always hear football coaches say, well, we took what they gave us. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard any coach say in my life. Take what they gave. I want to take what I want. I want to throw the ball to Tyler Hansbrough. If you put 4 people around him, I got to figure out some way to get the ball in there. Because if I get the ball in there enough, you're going to put 5 people around him, and then Ty Lawson and Wayne Ellington and those other guys can kill you. But it is something that everybody has their strengths, and we've got to get those players just like in your business that you've got to do. And for us, again, you have the same kind of thing at the year end, your fiscal year, whenever that ends, that you try to decide if you had a good year or not. The only thing a little more difficult is I get the newspaper people, the internet people tell me every night if it's a good year or not. And it changes from day to day. When I was first coaching at Kansas, it was funny because they said, God, Roy can really coach. I just wish he could recruit a little bit better. Now they say I can recruit like crazy and can't coach worth a darn, so it's a pretty neat deal. But our team this year, if you're North Carolina fans, I'll give you a quick rundown. We have 12 guys on scholarship. Dexter Strickland hasn't completely been released yet to go full speed at practice. We think that there's a chance that will happen before we start on Saturday. He had the knee surgery last February, ACL, and it was pretty major surgery. It's the third knee surgery he's had. But Dexter, if we can get him back completely, is going to give us that good, tough defensive player and the great speed and athleticism. Leslie McDonald was out the whole year last year because he had an ACL tear last July, a little over a year ago. And Leslie has come back, practiced with us at the end of the year last year, and appears to put that behind him. He can really shoot the basketball, and I've got to get Leslie convinced that he can do some other things. Because if he can do some other things, it keeps me having a reason to keep him in the game in case the shot's not going in. But both those guys, it's a little scary when there's 2 guys you're counting on and both of them coming off ACL surgery, because that's not something you like to have. But then the other guys starting, let's go big to little instead of class. No, freshmen need to go last. We'll go ahead. James Michael McAdoo, last year, the last 10 games really did some nice things for us, is on the verge of being able to step up and being a star. The biggest question for James Michael is, can you do this when the other team's defense is aimed at you? Last year, you were and people didn't care about you. They were worried about Harrison, John Henson, Kendall Marshall, and Tyler Zeller. But can you do it when the other team's defense is aimed at you? But James Michael has a wonderful personality, a wonderful kid, a wonderful work ethic, and some pretty doggone good ability. But we need him to step up and be a star for us. The other guy that's got to step up is Reggie Bullock from Kinston. Same kind of thing. Reggie was a complimentary player last year. Can he take that step into being a big-time player for us with the other team concentrating on stopping him? Reggie was a shooter. And after Dexter got hurt, we put him in the starting lineup, and he became a big-time defensive player. In fact, the second half of the year last year, he was much better defensively than he was offensively. But we need him to do both. Those guys have got to step up and do that. And they got more minutes than anybody else, again, except for Leslie and Dexter, but we're worried and concerned how they're going to bounce back. And then the rest of it, it's all new guys. Desmond Hubert's really good for us defensively and rebounding. And if he concentrates on that part of the game and be Dennis Rodman on the court and be Desmond Hubert off the court, we'll have a guy that I'll really enjoy. And if he's a Dennis Rodman on the court, I'm going to enjoy him during the game then. But once he goes off, I want him to be Desmond Hubert. But defensively and rebounding the basketball and jumping ability, he can really do some good things for us. We have Luke Davis, who set out last year as a transfer from Gardner-Webb, is one of those guys that some way, somehow is going to figure out a way to be important. I've never had anybody, and I've had some pretty special ones, that's any more disciplined than Luke Davis. Tyler Hansbrough sets the bar, and Luke's in the same ballpark. All right, because because Luke just works. He'll get the other guys out. He'll get the big guys out working on their ball handling, doing some things before practice. And he's, 5'10", a little worrywart going around there, but he's going to help us. Then just going down from the lineup here on the wing, we have Reggie, we talked about, Dexter and Leslie. We also have P.J. Harrison. P.J. Harrison could be the best shooter that I've ever coached, and really could be. What I want him to be is the best maker that I've ever coached. He shoots the crap out of it. It doesn't go in very much, okay? And, I stood behind him one day this summer doing a summer workout. He shoots 31 three-point shots from a full 3 feet behind the three-point line at the top of the key. Shoots 31, makes 28. That's more than he made all freaking year last year, okay? So I've just got to get him to make them in games. But PJ does give you some things that you can have him in a game because he can take some charges, he can get some offensive rebounds. Defensively, he's pretty good. So we do expect, and I remember Coach Smith always said the move from your freshman year to sophomore year is a big jump and improvement, and that's what we need from PJ right there. And then I guess I've got down everybody to the freshman. The freshman, Marcus Page, a little point guard, weighs about 160, left-handed. I like left-handed point guards. Kendall was pretty successful for us. Marcus Page is going to be a very good player. And there's a lot of pressure on this year because there's a chance that he may be given the ball right from the start and say, you got to run our club. A tough kid, mother and father both coaches. His mother won a state basketball championship in Iowa. His sister plays at University of Wisconsin, athletic family. 4.0 student, just a great, great kid. A little sneaky, a little savvy. He's not as quick as Ty Lawson, but more athletic than Kendall, but I think it's going to really do some good things for us. J.P. Tokoto, 6'6", small forward from Menominee Falls, Wisconsin. Vince Carter-type athleticism. I mean, he really is. He just does some things that even his teammates just stop and stare for a second. Old days, people would really say somebody could 360 dunk. That means you run in there and you jump up and you spin 360 and then you dunk the ball. JP can 360 dunk and then take the ball underneath his leg and dunk it before he comes down too. Now, he can't stand on the beach and throw it in the ocean when he shoots it, but it's that's what they pay me the big salary for, John, to see if I can make him a better shooter. But JP athletically does have a chance to do some wild things, and he will have the crowd on their feet. And I'm just hoping he doesn't have me on my feet screaming at him because he misses a shot that I didn't think he should take. But a wonderful kid, and people are going to love him to death. Bryce Johnson from down in South Carolina, 6'8", very thin, but he's got those fast twitch muscles. He can jump up and get the ball and block it off the block at the top of the square. And very thin. He's about 190, not as thin as John Henson was when John came in, and not the length that John has, but he's a faster jumper, and he's going to have to step up and play. And then the big fellow is a great story. I'm hopeful it'll be one of the great stories in college basketball is Joel James from West Palm Beach, Florida. Joel, the first time I saw him, was 6'10", 315. I'm sitting under the court at City of Palms Tournament in Fort Myers. Didn't even know who the kid was. I was there to watch James Michael McAdoo play. It was James Michael's senior year. And the game afterwards, and ball comes down, a kid goes down and tries to lay it up, and Joel tries to block the shot and didn't. And the referee called a foul. And I'm sitting right under the basket, and I've got a perfect line, and there was that much space, between Joel and the kid. And Joel, the funniest thing I think I can ever remember, he looked at me and said, "Coach, I swear I didn't touch him." I said, "I'm with you, big fella. I'll tell him when I get a chance." The referee came over. I said, "Mr. Ref, he didn't touch him." I could see that. And Joel looked at me and winked real big, so I decided right then I wanted to give that big rascal a scholarship. But he went from 6'10", 315. He reported at school this year in summer school for the second session at still 6'10", but 263. And he did that all on his own. He didn't have the home situation and everything where people tell you do this, do that. He's got tremendous drive. Now he's gone back to 272, and his percentage of body fat has gone down. And when he walks in the room, you are impressed. And I like that. I like to be good on the court, not just look good going through the airport. But I think that he's going to be good, and he could be one of these great success stories. But he's one of 11 kids in very, very difficult home situation, and didn't even play basketball until he was a sophomore in high school. But if you're a Carolina fan, once you get to know him, you're going to really love him. That's our team. We had some big losses, to say the least. 4 guys drafted in the top 17 picks in the NBA draft. Last year, last regular season game, we beat Duke at Duke by 18. I'm dumb enough to get on the bus afterwards and turn to our staff and say, if we stay healthy and play like that, we can play the last Monday night of the season. And then the very next game is when John Henson got hurt in the ACC tournament against Maryland. And even though John came back, he wasn't 40% of what he was before. And then 2 games later, Kendall Marshall got hurt, and that, needless to say, hurt us a great deal, taking away the head of the snake. But bottom line is we finished the Elite 8 again, and we had a great group of kids, and they leave something, because they leave a hunger that I hope the rest of those guys feel. And it's hopefully a fantastic year for us, and hopefully if you're a North Carolina fan, it's a fantastic year that you enjoy. If you're not a North Carolina fan, I hope it's not a fantastic year for you. So, bottom line. Good. I think it's this time that we can ask for some questions if we want to.
Questions at table 50, Matthew Coleman.
Thank you. It's an honor and pleasure, Coach Williams.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, in today's one-and-done era with players, how do you recruit against that kind of thing, and what kind of advice do you give them when they're trying to make that decision when it's obviously in your best interest that they stay?
Well, almost, and I'll say it this way, almost it's never in my best interest if they stay, because I think you have to look at every individual case for what it is. I mean, a year ago at this time right now, we would not have thought that Kendall Marshall would be in the NBA. We thought he would be playing for us. He was the 13th player taken in the NBA draft. All right, so that was a pretty good decision. There's only been one kid in 25 years as a head coach that I've said, this will be a mistake. You should not do this. The rest of the time I say, what do you want to do? And then I'm going to support them. And you know, it's funny, at Rams Club meetings, they say, oh, so-and-so should have stayed, and Marvin Williams should have stayed, and all this. And I just laugh. Why do you go to college? To get more educated. I understand that, but that's BS a lot of times too. You go to college to get a better job to make more money. I mean, that's the truth of the matter is, okay? Marvin Williams signed his name one time, made $11 million, and every North Carolina fan in here would have left just as quick as Marvin did, so let's be honest about it kind of thing. But it really is. So you go to college, you have some dreams of what you want to do, but one of the biggest reasons is to get more educated, to get a better job, to make more money. So I really don't try to steer those guys in any direction. This past year I spoke to 23 of the 30 NBA teams, gave our guys evaluations, said do what you want to do, which I had done the same thing the year before. The one and done, we cannot just recruit guys that we think are going to be one and done, and we can't just recruit those guys that are not going to be. I think you've got to try to get a balance. We want to recruit some of the best players, and then, yes, we'd like to recruit some kids who we think are going to be there 3 or 4 years, but you never know. Seriously, last year, very few people would have said Kendall Marshall would have been the 13th pick in the NBA draft. So that's the difficult thing. So you can't prepare for it, because when Kendall Marshall decided to leave in April, everybody was already gone, so we couldn't find anybody to replace him. But I think LeBron James made the right decision. I mean, he really did. Yeah, he would have been okay if he had gone to college too, but he decided to go straight to the NBA. His size, his body, his athleticism, his game fit that. He's been very successful, and I don't think he or Kobe made a bad decision, and yet there's a lot of guys that did make bad decisions, so I don't think there's any one rule that can fit everybody. Okay?
Next question's at table 2, Charles.
Will Stillman White return to the team in a year or two?
We assume so. I've told Stillman I want him back. He just received his Mormon assignment a couple of weeks ago. The Mormon mission is normally a 2-year thing. He's starting a little bit later, so whether or not they would allow him to finish after a year and a half, we'll just have to wait and see. But the assumption is he's coming back. I love the little rascal. I mean, he did some nice things for us, a wonderful kid and a wonderful family. And, yes, I hope that he's back with us, because he's already part family, and I'd like him to come back.
Table 57, Mike Jones.
Hey, Roy.
Hey, Mike.
If you can think back, what did Michael Jordan have as a kid growing up that stood out to you the most? And what did you do to recruit him to UNC over NC State?
I said, do what Coach Smith says. It's funny, and most of you have heard this story, and I apologize for being redundant if you have. The summer of Michael's junior year in high school, Eddie Fogler and I were sitting in the office one day, and I said, let's try to see if we can get the best players in the state to come to our camp this summer. And it's difficult because we make you pay, because we did it the right way then, always do. But so I started calling all the best players around the state. Buzz Peterson, I spoke to his high school coach, Rodney Johnson, Linwood Robinson, Michael Jordan, all these people. Timmy Mullen wasn't from North Carolina, from New Jersey, Chuck Kepley from Virginia, and we really had a good camp that summer. I had never seen Michael. Mike Brown, and I don't know if Mike is here, had called our office. Mike, I see, is that you? I see a hand waving. Okay. Michael had called our office and said, I think you guys need to come down and see a guy down here. I think he has a chance. And so Coach Guthridge came down to see Michael and came back and says, I'm not sure. All I saw him do was shoot a lot of long jump shots. All right, but still, we tried to get the best players in the state that year to come to our camp. On Sunday, I would take the kids to Carmichael, and we'd play half-court 5-on-5. And a counselor would bring down 30 kids, and they'd play for 30 minutes, and then another counselor would bring down 30 kids, and the first one would take his 30 kids back. So we kept that rotation going for 3 hours. That night, after registration was over with, we were getting ready to have the staff meeting, Eddie Fogler says, well, did you see anybody you liked? And I said, and I never hit another golf ball if this is a lie, I think I just saw the best 6'4" high school player I've ever seen. And he said, who was that? And I told him Michael Jordan, except that time it was Mike Jordan. And so by the end of the week, Coach Smith had lunch with him, breakfast with him, and, you know, he had tried to do the right things. But Michael was fiercely competitive, but not at that stage anything like what he was later on. And but we were fortunate enough that Michael had been to North Carolina on a trip with, I forget the name, Governor's Club or some kind of school club. He had been up there for a couple of days and looked around, and we really started recruiting much earlier than anybody else. We had about a 3 or 4 week head start of full speed ahead recruiting of him because he came to our camp. Then he goes to 5-star camp in Pittsburgh, and he was the MVP of the week, the MVP of the All-Star game, the one-on-one champion, the scoring champion, all those, and then all of a sudden he was really known. But Michael's difference is in his heart. He's still the best competitor I've ever seen, and that sets him apart. There's a lot of guys that can jump and run and do those things, and he has the whole package. But his competitiveness, I think, is the thing that set Michael apart. And I'll never forget, I did the running program. Buzz didn't even like me at this time because I tried to bury them. I mean, I'm the guy that went in Coach Smith's office in 1980 and said, Coach, I think we need to do more than just say show up for the mile on October 14th. I think we need to have a concentrated, extensive running program. He said, okay, you do it. And so I got what University of Kentucky was doing, what Bob Knight was doing in Indiana, and spoke to our track coach and got any information I could, and I put something together, and I did. I tried to bury them. I tried to make sure they remembered me, okay? And so this went on for 1 year. The first year we did it, we lost to Indiana national championship game, and then the next year Buzz and Michael got there, and same thing. And we're sitting around because we did it, the track around the soccer field and over with, and sitting there, and Michael said something, and he said, you know, I want to be the best player that's ever played here at North Carolina. I said, well, Michael, you got to work hard. You got to work harder than you've ever worked to do something like that. We've had great players. He said, well, I worked as hard as everybody else. I said, oh, excuse me. I thought you just told me you wanted to be the best player that ever played here. And I sort of got on him a little bit because, I mean, his high school team at Laney, they lost like 7 games, you know, and he's pretty daggum good. Michael can beat most high school teams with me and John and Jimmy and Buzz, okay, right now, okay. They lost 7 games, but so we ran Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The next day we came back, and at the end, Michael said, I want to talk to you a second. It was very quiet. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it was a big deal to me. He said, I heard what you said the other day. He said, nobody will ever outwork me. And I think Buzz will tell you, if practices were vicious, and that competitiveness, I think, is what set Michael apart from everybody else. But Michael, I've never forgotten that phone call too, partner. If anybody know any other name, Michael or Mike, I'll take either one of them. Just call us right now. Any other questions?
Question from Scott, table 57.
Which one, Scott? Ask your question.
Whole table full of questions back there.
Roy, thank you for being here today. It's a
Thank you.
pleasure. As long as you stay healthy, how much longer do you plan on coaching at Chapel Hill?
You know, it's crazy. No recruit had ever asked me that question until the last 3 weeks. My wife has asked me about every month, you know, that kind of thing. This summer, somebody did say something about it, and I said, I want to coach at least 6 to 10 more years. Coach Smith sort of made me promise that I wouldn't quit at 66. Because he felt like that that might have been a little bit early for him. And this was several years ago when we were talking. And so I made that promise. But I would, as long as I'm healthy, I'd like to coach 6 to 10 more years of it. Number one, I don't want to have a daggum job. And I'm not going to garden, and I'm not going to grow flowers or anything. I mean, you'll find me on the first tee. And so Wicked Wanda's got to have a big say in that, too, because she lived with me. You know, I will tell you this. Those 24 days, she's always been after me for the last 5 years to retire right now. And after spending 24 days with me all day long, she didn't even ride over here with me today. She said, you go do a good job.
Table 61, Russell Clark.
Hey, Coach. I just wanted to give you a chance to speak about Friday morning a little bit with the Cancer Center fundraiser. George Carl, and you've hit on it a little bit, George Carl, 40 years ago, I thought was the most competitive person I've ever run across. Other than Michael Jordan, who else in the Carolina family has got that kind of competitive fire?
You know, it's strange because I talk to our kids all the time about the best pair of defensive guards and the standard that I set for them they've never heard of. And it was George Carl and Steve Previs in 1972. I thought that was the best defensive pair of guards I had ever seen, because they were just vicious. And at Kansas, I had Jock Vaughn and Jared Hass. Jared's a new coach down at UAB, was my assistant for about 13 years, but that was the best pair of defensive guards that I really had during the time I was at Kansas. And so I can say something about those guys, and they don't any of them know who Jock Vaughn and Jared Hass. Now they know Jared's the head coach at UAB, and they know Jock Vaughn's the new head coach of the Orlando Magic. But that was the standard during my head coaching. So I come here to North Carolina, and our second year, Raymond Felton wasn't that good defensively our first year. But our second year, Raymond was really good defensively. Rashad McCants and Jackie Manuel could do a really good job defensively. And I think that's the reason we won it in 05, is we were a lot better defensively than people thought. And then we come along, and here comes Ty Lawson. And Ty's sophomore year and junior year was vicious defensively. I mean, Ty Lawson had 8 steals in the national championship game. That's against a really, really good team, but he had 8 steals. And Wayne Ellington got better and better defensively. And so what we've tried to do now is try to push to see if we can get somebody to step forward. But the 2 best defensive guards I've ever seen, and go all the way back into 72, was George Carl and Steve Previs. And George is coming to speak for me at the cancer breakfast on Friday morning. George has beaten cancer, knock on wood, twice. And his son has even had cancer. So it's something that George is very passionate about. That'll be Friday morning at the breakfast, and then he's got to hustle to San Antonio because they play an exhibition game that night in San Antonio against the Spurs. And I love the fact that George comes, and he is part family. When I asked George about it, he said, yeah, I think I can do that. And then all of a sudden, when I had this little bout 24 days ago, George is one of those guys that just kept calling and said, I'll see you on the 12th. And you love that kind of response, because it is a battle that everybody in this room is going to be touched by. And it's something that I am extremely proud of, the money that we've raised for the Lineberger Center. We auction off some things. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story on Buzz would love this about Coach Smith. A few years back, I auctioned off an opportunity to go in the locker room pregame, hear my talk, sit on the end of the bench, be placed in the huddle during the first half of the game. And so we had 2 guys bidding for it like crazy. And it got up to $25,000. And I said, I tell you what, I'll do both of you, okay? Wouldn't that be the best accounting measures right there? And so some other person that I didn't even realize had already set it up with the girl that runs the thing to give $25,000 for an opportunity. So now I got 3. Okay, so I got 3 games. I'm going to have somebody in my life. Nobody goes in my life. My wife, nobody goes in my locker room, okay? But I sold 3 of those for $25,000 apiece. And some of you that know Coach Smith, afterwards, he's sitting down there just smiling and grinning and everything. He comes and says, and why didn't you just win every game? I said, what are you talking about? You wouldn't do that for $25 million. You wouldn't let anybody in your locker room. But we do auction off some opportunities like that, and it was funny to me because I just busted out laughing. Coach Guthrie's just busted out laughing because there is no way in Hades that Coach Smith was going to let anybody do that. But he said, it's me and my team. He says, why didn't you do that for every game? You know, you could have made that kind of money. But we do try to do a good job raising some money and raising some awareness, and I think we're going to have a huge, huge crowd there this Friday morning at breakfast.
Question from Grayson, table 46.
Coach, you mentioned the media, judging your season, and it changes every day. How do you handle that kind of criticism from people who obviously don't know as much about your sport as you do?
It's hard. I've got thin skin, probably much thinner than it should be, and every time I really get really disappointed or really upset or whatever you want to call it. Doc Allen was the really truly the father of basketball coaching. He was Coach Smith's coach at Kansas, and he's the one that told Dr. James Naismith, the inventor of the game, says, I want to be a basketball coach. And Dr. Naismith said, Forrest, you don't coach basketball, you play basketball. And he said, I think I can teach them to cut in angles and pass away from the defense and play, you know. So he was truly the father of basketball coaching. Well, Doc Allen had a great saying that I have to keep telling myself all the time. If the mailman stopped to kick at every dog that barked, he would never get the mail delivered. And so I try to live like that, and I'm not calling all the media dogs. But the matter does get to that, and it's hard because again I'm very thin-skinned. It bothers me. I'm from the mountains, and they have this saying, you know, you've either got to get over something or get even. And so my life's mission is to get over until I get a chance to get even. But it's hard, and it's today's times are so much more difficult than it was 25 years ago. With the internet, the blogs, and everything that's going on right now, it would be difficult. Coach Smith, for example, is a very private coach. When we went into a prospect's home, we didn't say anything whatsoever. Now I go into a prospect's home, and I get home, and Wanda asked me why I answered the question the way I did, because it's already all over the internet what was being said. But it's difficult because you are out there in front of the public. It is difficult because everybody thinks, you know, the two most difficult jobs, I think, golf course superintendent and a basketball coach, because every one of you think you can do both of those. Okay, if you play golf, you're always saying, why doesn't he do this, or why doesn't he cut this there, and why don't they mow this over there, and the same things with basketball. But you know what? I'm one of the few guys in here every day I get to go do what I want to do. I don't go to work. I get to do what I want to do, and that's a pretty doggone lucky thing to have happen.
We got time for one more question.
Okay.
Table 58, Ray.
Right.
Hey, Coach Roy, pleasure being here.
Thank you.
I was curious about I was looking at the prospects we got going forward, how recruiting is looking for class of 2013, and a little bit of a two-part question. What's your take on the in-state rivals, Duke and NC State? NC State looking pretty strong.
Okay.
Actually, three parts. My wife would like to know about your grandbabies.
Your wife would like to know. I missed that. I thought that was the best question I'd had today. Okay. Grandbabies are fantastic. Aiden will be 3 years old on January 1st, and little Court turned 1 on August 24th. And I'm not big on technology, but with the iPhone you can get FaceTime. Is that the correct terminology? And so the night before I had surgery, my son Scott had the little boys in the bathtub, and so he said something to Aiden, and Aiden yelled something out, and I missed a bunch of it. And so Scott said, that interpretation is, good luck tomorrow when you go to surgery, and tell that doctor to get those golf balls out of your stomach. Because the tumors were supposedly about the size of the golf ball. The one they got out ended up being almost as big as a tennis ball. So after that interpretation, I understood what he was talking about. But and then last weekend, they came up and spent the weekend with us, and it doesn't get any better than that. So thanks very much to your wife for the question. They're adorable, and it can't be anything better than grandsons or granddaughters. I keep trying to get a granddaughter too. So far, I'm not winning that battle, but I have 2 grandsons. Recruiting and coming up, we have a couple of commitments. I can't say anything publicly about any of those because it's an NCAA violation. We're right in the middle of the recruiting. In fact, Coach Robinson all times will tell me that I've got to do certain things, and we did on September 10th. I got the information from our doctor right outside of an airport at about 6 o'clock, about the 2 spots, 1 on each kidney, and I had to go in the home an hour afterwards. And Coach Robinson said, Coach, why don't we just go on back home? We'll just, postpone this and do it at another time. I said, no, we're here, let's do a great job. And he said, well, what you have to do then is you have to lose yourself in the game. And I tell our players that all the time. And that's what we tried to do. And I did that one that night, got up the next morning, did another one, and then was supposed to go to Jersey City and watch a kid play. And I said, I think I better go on home now. I'd stretched it about as much as I could. But we're working at it. My staff does a great job. But again, we have 2 commitments, and we'd like to get maybe 1 or 2 other youngsters. And State and Duke are going to be big-time programs. I mean, they really are. And, you know, everybody said, does that bother you that State's doing such a better job? No. I mean, it's the same thing, Duke. I want Duke to be really good. I just want us to be better. Okay, because, I mean, it's such 9 years in a row, it's been the highest rated TV game in all of college basketball. So it's the best rivalry there is. So why would you not want to be part of the best rivalry? Why would you not want to be part of the biggest game? And we just got to uphold our part a little bit. But I think Duke will be picked 1. I think State will be picked 2, and it'll be very close in the league. I think those will be the 2 top teams by the media poll. And I'll tell you one thing, Wednesday, October 17th, if the second tumor had not been benign, that was the day they were going to do the second surgery. And boy, this is a toss-up, because Wednesday, October 17th is media day in the ACC. That is 10 hours with those dadgum guys. I almost told our doctor, can we wait and announce this on October 18th? You know, let people think I'm in surgery on the 17th, and that way I'll make Coach Steve Robinson go to ACC Media Day. But no, I think State and Duke, the league's going to be better this year. State and Duke are going to be really good. I think Florida State's going to be really good. I think Miami's going to be really good. I think we'll probably be picked 4th or 5th, something like that, and I want us to be really good. In closing, are we okay time-wise? In closing, thanks for allowing me to be your first speaker. I hope I didn't bore you to death so much that you won't show up for the next speaker. No, it's Buzz. I know you'll come to your Buzz, all right? I set the standard very low for you, big fella. Do a great job supporting Wilmington right here. You got a great place, a place that I really have grown to love. Wrightsville Beach is as good as it can get. John Bunning, the board of directors of the Wilmington Sports Club, are going to bring you good programs. And you know what? Everybody wants to be on a team. We have a group of guys, we used to sprint, and then we jogged, and then we jogged and walked, and now we just walk. But we go at lunch every day. I don't do lunches. I've been at North Carolina since my 10th year as a basketball coach. I've done 5 lunches in 10 years, and 3 of those were with the chancellor. All right, and 1 was with the governor, so I can't remember who the other sucker was, okay? But I don't do that. I go walk. And you know what? We have 2 guys will show up, 3 guys will show up, 5 guys. It's because everybody wants to be on a team. It's just like Little League all over again. Little League, you're 10 years old, and your game's at 7 o'clock, and you put your uniform on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's what's great about athletics to me. It's what's great about sports. Hopefully you'll get that feeling in your own job that you have a team. Every Friday in our office, somebody has to take the barbecue grill outside and cook. Somebody on our staff, secretaries, coaches, the whole bit. And it's so much fun to sit around on Friday at lunch because we're all part of a team. Hopefully you'll be part of a team here to help the Wilmington Sports Club. Thank you.
On behalf of the Business Journal, the Wilmington Sports Hall of Fame, and most importantly, my daughter Alex, we wanted to give Roy Williams a special gift. We understand he has to be away from his real home in Wrightsville Beach sometimes, so we thought when he was in his second home in Chapel Hill, we would have a nice aerial photo of the beach for his wall. So thank you very much, Coach, for being here. And one more announcement, please do check out the table right outside where you can join the new sports club for the Wilmington Hall of Fame. Thank you very much for being here.
Got memories? Get DVDs. Tapes won't last forever. Digital transfers will. Do it today so you'll have your memories tomorrow. Call us at 399-1820. or online at myrealvideo.com. Mold and time ruin videotapes. Tapes won't last forever. Digital transfers will. Do it today so you'll have your memories tomorrow. Call us at 399-1820 or online at myrealvideo.com.